Oh, it's super dark in here right now. So it's actually 1 o'clock in the afternoon and we're having quite the rainy day today. Can you see out there? It's not only raining, it's been thundering and lightning. I do still have to milk the goats at some point, but I've got an inside project that I'm doing today. I actually had a couple different options of projects that I could have done. I thought about making cheese, but truthfully, let me turn the light on. Truthfully, when it's cruddy weather outside like this, I get nervous about starting a project like that will require my power to be working. Because if I get in the middle of a cheese making project and I really need to be moving on to the next step, like stirring the curd and bringing it up to a certain temp, that kind of thing is pretty sensitive. It's not like there is a measure of error that you can have, but your power can't be out for hours and hours and have things work out consistently, if that makes sense. And so I didn't want to start that today just in case our power goes out. It does go out relatively frequently. So I've actually yanked out one of my little circular knitters. Both knitters that I have were sent to me as a gift. I'm very grateful for these. The hats that I've made on the website, which you guys sold out our last drop. I am so grateful. You guys have no idea how much it means to me to have things just go that fast and to know that you guys want something like that. It warms my heart. I appreciate you all so much. So I'm working on a little bit of the next drop. I like to kind of drop things in bulk so that there's many different things to choose from all at once, but this is my small knitter. The bigger one makes the hats, and this little one I've been experimenting a little bit with making things like socks, but as far as incorporating parts of our farm into what I'm making, I think it would be really fun for me to create a scarf with pom-poms on the ends instead of tassels. So I'm gonna see what kind of a scarf I can get out of this today. I am a hand knitter. I actually started knitting when I was 7 years old. I learned to knit before I learned to crochet. My grandmother, she must have had an immense amount of patience because I've been trying to teach my daughters how to knit. For some reason it's not sticking. They have their own hand looms and things and they love to crochet, and so that's working out well. But I'm really grateful to have learned how to hand knit, and because I know how to hand knit, I have a greater appreciation for machines like this. This can whip out a project way faster than I could ever imagine hand knitting it, and it saves my elbow. I do have a bad elbow because I do a lot of work on the farm, hand milking and hand weeding and things. It can really do a number on my elbow, and this makes creation possible, which I'm really grateful for. If I was to hand knit the hats that I've sold, I would not have had as many as we've had, and I probably wouldn't have more than what I would be able to create for my own family, because all the kids have hats with the fur pom-poms and I've got one, and they've been really fun. So something like this, I know it's not the same as hand knitting, but I really am appreciative for the accessibility of stuff like this. This here is some wool that I purchased online. It was hand dyed, I believe in New York. Black Sheep Dye Works. This is merino wool, and it's superwash merino, so it's easy to care for. This here is called hank of wool, and it's a lot easier to work with wool when it's all balled up, but I don't mind just kind of draping the hank over the chair here and kind of unwinding it as we go. So what I'm probably never going to do on this channel is teach exactly how to do these things. There are plenty of other channels out there that show how to knit and how to crochet. There's actually a channel that I've grown to really love called Totally Fierce Crochet. He has a bunch of tutorials, like how to step-by-step tutorials on how to do a whole bunch of different projects. Some of the crochet projects are really cool. They look like knit. Very cool. I will put the link to his YouTube channel in the description box. He's got left-handed tutorials as well as right-handed tutorials. So I've got this all threaded on. I'm going to go a little bit slow at first as things get kind of set. And then once we get going, it's like butter. This particular yarn does very well on this machine. the kids are getting their own lunches.
I wanted to make your belly warm, but Belly said you'll get it. You put in the back.
Oh, okay, thank you. No, it's okay. See what we've got here? It is like a tube that comes out, and so it's like a double layer. This looks like it's gonna be one of those thinner type scarves that needs doubling over. It's gonna work out, I think. Okay, so I've done 225 rounds in about 30 minutes, which really is not bad. I never could have made a whole scarf in 30 minutes before, even with my fastest knitting and fastest crocheting. Pretty long for only 125 rows. I'm just gonna cinch both sides, and so there'll be a pom-pom on this end and a pom-pom on the other end in the theory. Ooh, looks like I might need to go longer. It seemed really long, but this is what I'm kind of hoping for, is it being able to be doubled over, and then the pom-poms will sit like right here kind of thing. That covers the neck pretty well. It definitely needs more length. So what I'll be able to do, I mean, that was really fast as like an experimental project. What I'll be able to do is pick this apart. I'll just take the end out and re-spin it on this and keep adding some yarn, and this won't go to waste. Alrighty, so I've got obviously another inside project. We are on day 18. My poor advent calendar is falling all apart. 18 is down here. Oh, are we on day? I am on day 18. This is different than what I thought to expect. I expected green and red. I need to make sure my thing isn't messed up. Hold please. No, that's correct. We have the right thing. So I figured while we were felting today, I would cover an important topic of concern regarding one of my recent videos. So when I posted about processing Havoc, I didn't show any of the process. I just showed our last moments with him. And what we did, if you're unaware, is we have, or had, really a foundation herd animal that essentially his use was complete here. And we have kept back a ton of his daughters and purchased in a couple new breeding bucks, actually a few. We have a mini La Mancha feral and 2 Nigerian dwarves. One's from Blue Cactus nefarious, and then the other one is from a nice farm down in Georgia called Bella Rosa Estates. And so we essentially grew out of our need for our original foundation buck, Havoc. And it was when I bought Mooch that really the idea of only selling animals that I would be willing to keep and use in my own breeding program really was introduced to me, really by Bella Rosa Estates, Samara. That's how Samara runs things. And honestly, as someone who buys breeding bucks, I really appreciate it. This is not the first time I've heard of people being a little bit kind of stingy, if you will, with their bucks. And it's not the first time that I have appreciated that fact. Actually, I was on a wait list last year to buy a F4 mini La Mancha from my friend Dee over at Buck Creek Stables close to us in Smiths Grove, Kentucky. And the buck was born and beautiful, and I got pictures of him, and it was several weeks later when she said, "I'm sorry, Heather, I can't sell this buck as a breeding buck." And the reason was she wasn't happy with his dam's udder. He obviously would have still been fine really to use if, you know, the only goal was milk, because he's not related to any of my does, but the standards were a little bit higher from that breeder. And I honestly really appreciate that. A lot of breeders put a lot of work into what they put out, and if something isn't up to standard, they're not going to sell it. And as someone who purchases animals from outside sources, I actually really appreciate that. Is the breeder doing legwork for you? Really, they're helping you out in the long term, because you're not going to buy something that they themselves are not proud of, and that's really good. That's good. It's good for all the breeds overall. So, having experienced that really twice, in a short length of time, it really had me thinking about whether or not I was going to sell Havoc, because I could have. I actually did offer Havoc for sale to my friend Megan at GWP Homestead and my sister-in-law, who is at Molasses Acres, and neither one of them wanted him, mostly because he's hard to handle. I don't really blame them. I just wanted to make sure that neither one of them was going to be sad that they didn't get the opportunity, but both of them turned him down because both of them know that we have better here that they could partake of later on. And so when we posted about what was going to happen with Havoc, we did butcher him. And I am actually going to put him in cans this week up on the shelf. I haven't canned a whole ton of goat. I have canned some ground goat, but I'm just going to be essentially canning him up as stew meat so I can have ready to go goat. I really love the canned meat. I'm actually using canned rabbit meat tonight. I'm making white chicken chili, except for it's white rabbit chili. And I'll just be adding the cooked rabbit meat at the end, and that's really nice. I want to be able to have some goat for similar purposes, quick meals, tacos, stuff like that. So I did have a little bit of concern from some people, and I wanted to kind of give my perspective, not necessarily to like justify myself to someone else. I don't feel like I need to sit here and justify my choices to other people. I don't need other people to agree with me in order to make my choices be what they are and be comfortable with my choices. But I do want to talk about it because I know that a lot of people are in the same boat as me, and I think it could help like validate some of the ways that other people may feel and help just give you that perspective, just offer up that perspective. I had a comment, and I know that there were some people that probably thought this and didn't comment it about, number one, why didn't you sell him? And we've already kind of covered that. I didn't sell him because I have better to offer the community that I would be more proud of putting our name on. Havoc just, he passed on a lot of good qualities. He really did. He improved the herd that I had, but he just stopped being able to improve the herd that I had. So here's an example. We have our blue cactus sired doe named Winnie. Winnie is out of Nefarious. Winnie is very likely going to have a nice udder that's tight up to her body, well-placed teats, good capacity. She's a good goat. And before I had purchased Mooch, the only other buck that I had was Havoc. And historically, Havoc does add, or did add, softness and capacity to the udders of his daughters. The only problem is, and this is a big problem, and I'll put a picture here of Breezy so you can see, but the udders just hang really low and they don't have a good amount of attachment, and that's not good. So it would not be improving on the Winnie line to put Havoc over her. I would just be breeding her to Havoc because Havoc wasn't related, and that's not really the standard that I want to hold for myself. So why did I not put Havoc in some kind of sanctuary? That was another question that I got. I feel that it would have been incredibly irresponsible of me to pass Havoc off to some kind of sanctuary if they would have even taken him. I kind of doubt it. Like, there's nothing wrong with him. He wasn't in danger. He wasn't super sick, and I wasn't able to take care of it. Like, sanctuaries and rescues are there to be a sanctuary and a rescue for an animal that has that kind of a need. And Havoc just really didn't have that kind of a need. He was genuinely just not needed anymore and not wanted anymore. And to just dump an animal on a rescue is irresponsible, honestly. Havoc is my responsibility, and I don't need to just pass him off to take up a sanctuary's time and resources just because I didn't want him anymore. So because our family has to eat anyway, it makes the most sense for us to process him as meat for our family, because otherwise, if I had sold him for a couple $100s, I couldn't get a lot from him, not in the community that we have here. Goats don't sell for a whole ton around here. I could get a couple $100, but what would I do with that couple $100? I would turn it around and purchase food. I would purchase someone else's butchered animal instead of butchering my own. And I might as well butcher my own. I have the skills, we have the willingness, we have the capacity, and goat meat is darn good. This kind of thing is just part of the life. I thought it was really good for people to see. I knew there would be a little bit of kickback from people that don't quite fully understand the full scope of what goes into homesteading and what goes into animal husbandry. There are animals that I plan to keep here forever. Havoc just wasn't one of those. I really, really genuinely look forward to what is to come with our dairy goat herd. I already have some culls of does kept in my mind, and really the herd that I have now at this point isn't necessarily freezer bound. I believe that as far as does are concerned, that even if they don't have the best looking udder or whatever, that they still have value that they can bring to a family. So we'll be selling does like Breezy in springtime after she kids. I bred her to feral. I know that if I get a daughter out of her, that daughter will be an improvement for our herd. And so I'm very excited to keep a feral daughter out of Breezy and see that improvement. But Breezy has plenty of ability to provide a lot of good quality milk for a family. And so does are a little bit different with that. And as far as the bucks that I have now, these bucks are also something that I would be proud to rehome and resell, because I know that they are quality animals. Unfortunately, Havoc, I just didn't purchase him with really much in mind besides his moon spots, to be very frank. And there's a lot more to an animal besides their beauty when it comes to functionality. You really want udders to be high and tight to the body, not because that's the show standard, but because that is going to create a healthy udder for that animal for a good length of time. Udders that hang really, really low can get in the way, they can get stepped on, they can be hard for kids to nurse off of. So just trying to improve our herd is really the whole thing with it. I wouldn't worry too much about the animals that we have here and getting really attached to them and worrying that they're going to go in the freezer. That's really not the goal for a lot of our herd. If it is the goal for animals that are born, I do let you know, like little Gollum, because of Margie's udder oops, there goes my thing. Because of Margie's udder not being super ideal, I really love Margie. Margie's a heart goat of mine, so she's going to stay, but I won't be selling bucks out of her because of the way that her udder is. I've got does that have better udders that would make better bucks, but as far as Margie's bucks go, they're always going to be freezer bucks, and there's always going to be a want for freezer bucks around here because, like I said, goat meat is delicious. We really, really enjoy it. We've made several of these. This may be the last little present that we make. These have been fun. There we go. It's another present. I think a lot of these things are supposed to fit in the little felted sleigh that I made. Might be a tight fit. The ducks sound like they're having a blast. You are not in waterproof mode, so we gotta move kind of fast. Levi's got the walls mostly framed out for the barn extension. Look at this. Got the light on in the rabbitry. It's kind of dark. Hi, baby. There we are. Are you ready to be milked? Yeah. Watch out, slippery. An important distinction that I neglected to mention before is that farm animals are not pets. I said it in a past video that I feel like old MacDonald did everyone a disservice when you only heard about the animals and the sounds that they made on his farm and not the reason that old MacDonald had them on the farm in the first place. Because I mean, in children's books and things, that's all you hear about. There's farms exist, and not necessarily for production reasons, but that's really why they exist. They exist for production, and if an animal isn't going to be a productive member of the herd, I mean, they're not pets, and decisions have to be made. So guys, I hope that helps clear some things up. If you have more questions, please ask them. I also have a couple videos that I've taken that really go more into depth about like our heart space and our head space when it comes to processing our own meat animals. I'll leave a couple of these right here as well as some in the description box if you're interested in learning a little bit more about our perspective on that.